It is the Jeff Dubay Show. It's a Monday for us. Monday after the brackets come out. All we do is hook you up, Rubes. We hook you up. We take care of you. So I don't. You know what? I didn't need to scour the countryside. I didn't need to overturn rocks and look under in every nook and cranny for the greatest basketball mind because he's a personal friend of mine. I made a phone call and here he is. I call him Freak Nasty. Other people call him Henry Lake. What's going on, H. Lake?
What's going on, Jeff Dubay? How are you doing, my friend? You know, most people call me Lake Show, but you know me as Freak Nasty back in the day when I was like this pudgy young intern at the Fan with you. But yeah, we've grown throughout the years, man.
Well, I hope so because I'd hate to have to talk about the magazines that you used to bring in for the overnight shift that Bob Yates would borrow from you when he came in for the morning show.
Don't you start putting that on my plate, Dave, because that was all about you and Bob Yates. You guys were getting me in a whole lot of trouble back in the day.
We'd come in for the morning show. You have the overnight shift, and Bob would come in for the morning show, and he'd get on that satellite dish, and he'd get the West Coast feeds of Cinemax, and he'd be watching porn while he's doing the show at 5 in the morning. It's 3 in the morning in L.A., so they're still watching their Spanktervision, their Skinemax. So Bob would dial right into that. So we're doing the show. He's going through like traffic or something. He's watching some lady get nailed. Somebody's getting drilled softcore porn style.
Hey, think about the cast of characters back then. It was you and Yates. Then it was me as kind of like the overnight board-op guy that was helping you guys do stuff in the morning. And then you had Jesse Ventura that was still there before he wasn't governor.
I know, and Woodley too. Don't forget Woodley. He's your boy, right?
Yeah, Mike Woodley.
Woodley and Tafoya, what a match. But I mean, because he drove her nuts. But anyway, I digress. We got basketball to talk about. Hey, give me that bracket back there, would you? I got. My buddy Jason McGovern, co-host, producer of the show, is here. To get you up to speed here, H. Lake. Yeah, we started a little podcast network here in the Twin Cities with my boy Sean Bernard, Tom's nephew. Although they're not the closest family you'd ever want to meet, but we'll just leave that there. Actually, I don't always want to associate him with Tom because they're not that close these days. But my board-op producer is Jason McGovern. He used to be the producer for Mishke, and I know who Mishke is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, we got Rusty Gatenby, we got Jim Suhan does a show. I mean, we got a pretty solid network thing going on here. But we got the brackets coming up, and I'm just gonna let's just start this out. Well, why don't you go ahead and you give me a letter grade? Give the committee a letter grade in terms of, excuse me, as I belch into the microphone. Hang on, I got a ginger ale coming up on me. Hang on. Okay, we're okay. Give the committee a letter grade here, H. Lake, based on, did they get the right teams in, leave the right teams out? Did they get the teams seated where they belonged? And did they get some balance in the brackets? Or again, it seems like every year you can find a bracket that is just a beast and another one that's really soft. Did they balance it out well enough? What kind of grade do you give the committee?
Well, I like what the committee did for the most part. There's always going to be those one or two teams that you're going to look at and say, you know what, this team I can't figure out how they got in, or this team I can't figure out how they got left out. And the one team that I saw a couple of times that I just feel bad that they didn't make the tournament is Murray State. That's just, they played so well this year. I mean, that's a team that won 27 games. You know, they won 27 games, and they have a kid on their roster that's most likely going to play in the NBA in the next couple of years. So I felt really bad about Murray State, and it really got me to thinking about, valuing the mid-majors and some of the lower majors because, when we talk about the bubble, the bubble teams in terms of the power conferences, it's not created equally when it comes to the bubble. So when the bubble didn't burst for teams like Indiana, when it didn't burst for a team like UCLA, to me, I would rather see a Murray State that won 27 games and is entertaining to watch as opposed to Indiana out of the Big Ten. And you know me, I love the Big Ten, being a Minnesotan, but I just want to see some balance when it comes to some of the mid-majors maybe get a crack because, when it comes to mid-majors and some of those conferences, I get it. In some of the really, really small conferences like the Summit, you're going to get one team. You got to win that automatic bid. You got to win that conference tournament. But for teams that have played well the entire regular season and then ultimately at the end don't get an opportunity to showcase their wares, that's a little bit unfortunate. But getting back to your other part of your question, though, in regards to the seeding and the brackets itself, the Midwest, without a doubt, is the toughest bracket. Yes. I mean, Kentucky's the strong number one overall seed, and they should be because they're undefeated, and they have just put an ass-kicking on so many different teams in the world of college basketball this year. But you also got in there Kansas as a 2. Notre Dame is playing some really good basketball right now as a 3. And then the 4th seed is Maryland. and I'm not really sure how I feel about them because they can be very Jekyll and Hyde here. But when I look at it at the end of the day, the Midwest was the toughest, and I thought like looking at the bracket here, the West was the second toughest. When you have the 1-2 be Wisconsin and then Arizona, I thought the East was really, really weak. I know Villanova was a 1 seed, and I'm not really sure how I feel about Villanova, but I thought that the East and the South, respectively, were really, really light.
Yeah, and when you and I are seeing eye to eye on this, and when I look at a bracket, I look at a region, and I'm trying to determine the strength or susceptibility of said region. I'm looking at the big seeds. I'm not looking at the mid seeds. I know that teams make runs. I know teams come out of nowhere. We can talk. We'll talk 5 and 12s here at some point. But I look at how good is it at the top. Do you have a number 2 that could have been a number 1, or that looked like they were a number 1 for part of the season and then slipped to a number 2? And like when I talk about the Midwest, you mentioned obviously Kentucky is the best team in the country. They have been head and shoulders all year. They're looking for the perfect season. But when I saw Kansas play at times this year, when they put it together, they're a 1 seed. I mean, they got a little enigmatic from time to time, but when that team put it together, they're the depth and the numbers and the athletes they could come at you with. I mean, they were second to no one in the country other than maybe Kentucky.
Yeah, I will say this, though, man, because I am really, clearly, I'm close to the Kansas situation.
Yep.
The station that I'm on, 610, is the home for KU basketball, and I was in the locker room the entire time for the Big 12 tournament. And Kansas is a team that right now, man, is struggling, not just in terms of looking at them physically with the Perry Ellis knee injury and the kid's trying to gut it out, but he's clearly not healthy right now. They have just so many issues right now, and it starts with Perry in the knee, and then secondly, Cliff Alexander, the kid that was a McDonald's All-American, one of the guys, when you look in their front court, that they were going to depend on for his strength and his athleticism and his size, being a 6'8", 6'9" type of guy. Bill Self just commented a little bit over an hour ago that he's not going to play at all in the NCAA tournament due to the investigation, so he's not going to be a part of it. Ellis is injured. Landon Lucas is a little bit dinged up coming out of the Big 12 tournament. And then Hunter Mickelson is just not ready for prime time quite yet. The problem with Kansas, and everybody knows with Kansas this year, is that the strength of that program has always been their front court and always been their big-time front court players, whether it was a Joel Embiid last year who didn't play in the NCAA tournament, and he ended up being the number 3 pick in the NBA draft last year. And then you look to the Jeff Witties, the Thomas Robinsons. You go way, way back with all the guys, the Rafe LaFrences, all of
Cole
those
Aldrich,
guys.
come on.
They do. Yeah. I mean, Cole Aldrich. Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up because he was a part of a national championship team his freshman year. Mm-hmm. But they don't have that this year. They just don't have that this year. They're going to be relying on their backcourt in terms of trying to get something done. And when I talked to Curtis Townsend, the assistant coach for KU last night, he essentially said that Frank Mason's not ready. Essentially, and I'm not quoting him, but essentially he said he's not ready for prime time in terms of knowing that he's going to be able to carry this team at the point guard position into a Final Four. So they have a lot of issues. Brandon Green has got a beautiful stroke, but he's a kid that's not knocking down his three-point shot. I guess to say all of that, what I'm trying to tell you is Kansas is not a team that I think that anybody in Minnesota should be penciling in as a Final Four team.
Tread lightly on the Jayhawks. H. Lake is the hoops guru. Take what he says seriously. I'm going to go on a limb here, the freak. I'm going to make a bold prediction. 4 number 5 seeds win round 1. No 12-5 upset this year. I'll read them to you.
Prediction?
That's bold.
That's
West Virginia beating Buffalo. That is what else?
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I was about to say it's a bold prediction, but I agree with you because knowing that Iowa's going to win their game,
yep.
I believe that Utah is going to win their game. Although Stephen F. Austin did have some success last year in the NCAA tournament, winning and getting out of the first round. So I wouldn't be exactly shocked if they won this year. But Utah, I've seen them 4 times this season, and I think that they're going to win their first-round matchup.
Arkansas?
Arkansas is going to win their game because they're too good defensively against Wofford.
Yeah, and that's something else. I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but I can't think off my top of my head the last time 4 number 5 seeds got out of the first round. I know it hasn't happened in a very long time.
Well, we'll put it like this. Out of the last 12 times that a 12 seed has been a 5 seed, 8 of those games have went to the 12th seed.
Yeah, I mean it's the most coveted first round matchup in terms of upsets. I mean, people are always all over the 12-5, and I'm telling you, this year, tread lightly, people. The number five is looking healthy for round 2 or round 3, whatever. I hate the fact that they got that little bitch made first round. So like the first round is now the second round. I hate that. It messes me up. I mean, like before you've even played a game, most of the field is in the second round, and I can't stand that. It still confuses the hell out of me. It's not my favorite. Hey,
I'm with you on that.
Hey, Henry, last night I'm watching ESPN, and maybe it's just that kind of tournament, but the boys were all about the chalk, whether it would be Billis, Vitale, whoever. I mean, Jay Williams. It didn't matter who they talked to. Everybody is about the chalk. I mean, everybody under the sun has Kentucky in this thing. Everybody under the sun seems to have Villanova in the Final Four. There's a little bit of a split on Duke and Gonzaga, but there's a 1 and a 2 seed, so you're splitting hairs again. The guys loved Arizona. Nobody was on Wisconsin. Which that doesn't break my heart. I got no love for Bucky, but everybody was on Arizona getting out of the West instead of Wisconsin. But everybody's frozen for. Everybody's Final Four. Every expert's Final Four was nothing but a 1 and a 2 seed. 1 and 2 seeds, nothing lower than a 2.
Still there?
Yeah, we're still here. Right? What do you think of that? The fact that it's just so chalky that nobody thinks anybody lower than a 2 is going to the Final Four.
Well, I think part of that is due to the fact that the way that the brackets are set up. So let's start with Kentucky in the Midwest, right? If everybody agrees that is the team to beat, and it's not even close, and they're the number 1 team overall in seed by a long mile in a long stretch, of course they're going to be the team that everybody's going to look at to win the national championship and come out of the Midwest. Then the other tough region is the West, and I have Wisconsin coming out of there. Now, I do believe that Arizona is one of the top 5 teams in the country, but I believe that right now Wisconsin is the second best team in the country behind Kentucky. And the reason why I say that, and I know you have no love for the Badger fans, but the reason why I say that, Jeff, is because when you look at Frank Kaminsky and you look at all the things and the pieces that they have with the Wisconsin Badgers, they can defend, and also offensively, they're awesome. This is not, the Badger teams from a decade ago. This team can play extremely well at both ends of the court, both defensively and offensively. Then when you look at the Villanova region over in the East, the reason why Villanova as a 1 seed a lot of people like is because that damn bracket is weak. Yeah. I actually have Oklahoma Sooners as a team that could possibly come out as a 3 seed. I don't know what you think about the East. And then in the South, you got to go with Duke or Iowa State. To me, if you're coming out with anything other than Duke and Iowa State, it would have to be Gonzaga, but there's something about Gonzaga that I just don't like right now.
I'll tell you why I don't like Wisconsin, H. Lake. Too many white guys. This ain't 1952, and it's not a Disney movie. Too many white guys.
Well, you say that, but who got to the Final Four?
I'm messing with you. Kaminsky might be Player of the Year. I mean, he did. There's nobody who does more than he does for his team.
I thought you were about to knock on like the next Keith Van Horn. I'm like, man, come on, give Kaminsky some love.
Yeah,
baby.
He's better than that. He's more versatile than that. He's bigger. He's tougher. He can do a lot more than that. But here's what I don't get, Lake. If the East is so vulnerable, and I agree with you that it is, how come no one's talking about Louisville as being sneaky as a 4?
Because the reason why Louisville is going to be a team that no one's going to buy into, and I'm not going to buy into Louisville either. Yes, they have a Hall of Fame basketball coach in Rick Pitino. Yes, they have a good front court player, Montrezl Harrell. But Montrezl Harrell is a guy that, if he scores 10 baskets, 8 of those baskets are going to be dunks. And in the NCAA tournament, it's not going to be a dunk fest. So you're going to have to do more than just dunk the basketball. And remember, they lost one of their starters, 3 weeks ago due to the accusations of rape. Remember, he left. He left the program, was dismissed from the program. Then he left out of state to go work on some issues. Yeah. And then 3 days later, they said that he had raped somebody with her. So they just got a lot going on. I just don't buy into Louisville. I don't think that they're one of the teams that's going to be a factor. I do like Oklahoma and what they're going to do because they can score the basketball. Michigan State is starting to play some really good basketball right now, and it's kind of odd because when I look at the Spartans and Tom Izzo and what they typically do, this is one of the worst teams they've had in probably the last 10 years.
Oh, God, the Gophers beat them. The Gophers beat them in East Lansing.
Yes. But for some odd reason, they started playing better in the Big Ten tournament.
Yep.
And then what do you make of Virginia? Virginia's been like this team that everybody's been touting as the number 1 seed the entire year. And I've watched Virginia play like 5 times. Man, it's god-awful to watch. And as much as Virginia's good defensively, man, they cannot score to save their lives. I hope they get bounced in the first round. I'm dead serious. I hope a 15 seed beats them because I don't want to watch them play.
Well, I tell you, the ACC is a little weird this year. I mean, I'm not going to call it down, but when things are as they should be, the ACC is to college basketball what the SEC is to college football. When things are the way they should be, Tobacco Road runs the show. And you get to the ACC tournament this year, and the final is Notre Dame and North Carolina. And you do a double take, and you're like, well, what the hell just happened? Where's Duke? Where's Virginia? Where you know, a year ago we had Miami coming out of nowhere, looking exciting and lights out. But there's nobody capturing my imagination in that conference right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good conference, though. I mean, from top to bottom, it is, I think, a pretty solid conference. Maybe it's a little bit top-heavy, but Duke is an incredible team offensively. What they're able to do with Tyus Jones running the point guard, Justice Winslow, and then the number 1, or I think most people believe is going to be the number 1 overall pick. If it's not going to be Karl Anthony Towns from Kentucky, it will be Jahlil Okafor. But Duke is amazing offensively. But they are not a good defensive ball club, and that's the problem with Duke. Like, I would look at Duke and put them on the same level, or not the same level, but extremely close to Kentucky, but they just cannot defend like that. That's where you separate the men from the boys, is that Kentucky is on another level defensively than any other program in the country right now. Mm-hmm. I know Virginia defends, Wisconsin defends, Michigan State has always had that identity that they can defend the basketball and stuff well, but right now Kentucky defends so well that is the reason why they're cut above.
Well, with Kentucky, you've got the coming together of so many things. I mean, you get teams that buy into what their coach is selling. Yeah, that's what happened in Wisconsin forever. I mean, they buy into Bo Ryan, and they bought into Bo Ryan forever. At Kentucky, though, you put in you add the element of world class athletes with the length, with the reach. I mean, like the Tayshaun Prince types. You get that athletic kid who's long and he's buying into what the coach is selling. I don't know how you score against a team like that.
Yeah, they're extremely tough, and right now, in Vegas, they are an even money favorite to win the NCAA championship. To me, the better bet is how many years, what is the over-under on how many years until we see them vacate this national championship here in 2015. Because that Coach Cal is going to find a way to screw something up. Yeah. He did something illegal.
Yeah, I know it. And I've seen Coach Cal is if just watching him on TV makes me want to take a shower. He's so dirty. Dude, he's so slimy. He's the god. He's like a mafioso running a college program. I mean, he's the Godfather. He's the Godfather. And he's one of these guys who gets nailed every place he goes. And you get to a place like Kentucky, and you almost wonder if he's too big for the NCAA. They don't want to fuck with him because they don't like vacating titles. It's like like at UMass, he was perfect because he cheated. And the NCAA knew he cheated, and they got Marcus Camby telling him all this stuff. They had him dead to rights. It's like, well, hell, we'll nail UMass. UMass didn't win a title. We're not vacating shit to get UMass, so they could go out and that's the kind of program that Calipari gets nailed at. But at Kentucky, he's winning titles, and the NCAA does not want to, years down the line, vacate a title and then go knocking on the door of who lost the championship game and say, we're sorry about that. Here, why don't you take this trophy and we'll call you the champion. Sorry about all that misunderstanding. I mean, they don't want to do that.
Yep. And let me give you a couple of teams that can really mess up people's brackets that people should be aware of. Just because, and the way that I'm going to phrase it is like, we always have those teams that are very Jekyll and Hyde. One day they're playing really, really well, then the next day they're just looking like scrubs. But if they're on that given day, they can totally screw all of us up. And I'll give you a couple of those teams. In the East, LSU. Mm-hmm. LSU is a team. They're a 9 seed. They're playing NC State, and that's kind of a toss-up in terms of who's going to win that opening round game. But LSU, when they want to get after it and when they want to defend at a high level, I've seen them play Kentucky.
If you think Shaquille O'Neal and Chris Jackson, and if you think Shaquille O'Neal and Chris Jackson and Tyrann Mathieu are coming through that door to save your sorry team, no, I'm just kidding. Continue.
But I do think that they could be a team that could really hurt people's brackets, especially in a matchup against Villanova in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a tough game for Villanova. When you look at the South, I think that a team that could really make a little bit of noise is Utah. And we kind of talked about the 12-5s a little bit, and we mentioned that we both agreed that the 5s will be moving on. But Utah is a team that would be a sneaky team to face Duke in the Sweet 16 and give Duke a little bit of trouble because they can score, but they can also defend the basketball. And I really like their point guard, DeLon Wright, who's the younger brother of Dorrell Wright, who plays in the NBA right now, and he's really, really got a bright future ahead of him. And then when I look at the West, the team that I like in the West that could sneak up on a few people, and this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but Ohio State.
Yes.
It's something about Ohio State because we know we know he can coach, right?
Yeah.
And we know that he's got some nice pieces. But when you start looking at their team, you're like, well, what's going on with Ohio State? Because they do have some senior leadership on that team. They do have a big guy in the middle in Loving that can play.
They got the kid who can score.
One of the best freshmen in the country in D'Angelo Russell that can flat out score.
Yep.
So Ohio State is kind of a sneaky team there.
Yeah. D'Angelo Russell, is that what you said his name is?
Yeah.
That kid can flat out score. I mean, I'm not sure there's a better pure scorer in the Big Ten. I mean, the kid just can score.
Yep, he can.
I mean, he just,
so those are three teams, man, that you need to be looking at.
Yeah, no, I like that. We're going to let you go in here in just a second, H. Lake. But why don't you go ahead and try to piece together a Final Four for me if you can.
Well, Kentucky's going to be tough to beat, so I think that Kentucky's definitely going to go back out of the Midwest. Although the Midwest is the toughest region, in my opinion. Then in the West, I'm going with Wisconsin. I know a lot of people are on Arizona. I can clearly see how people would look at Arizona and say Arizona is going to be the team to give redemption. Because that to me, the West is a storyline of redemption. Because remember last year, let's go back a year.
Mm-hmm.
The 1 seed in the West last year was the Arizona Wildcats. The 2 seed was the Wisconsin Badgers. Who ended up winning that matchup and going to the Final Four? It was Wisconsin.
Yep.
Now flip the seeds this year. This year, Wisconsin's the 1, and Arizona's the 2. So Arizona's looking to get payback, but I still think that Wisconsin is going to be a little bit too much for Arizona, but I would not be surprised if Arizona won that. Then you go to the South, I think Duke is going to be the team to come out of the South, although the other team that I think is going to be tough to beat is going to be Iowa State, but Iowa State cannot get caught up in the NCAA tournament, getting down double digits to other teams and then trying to make those late runs. They did it 3 times here in the last, week and a half, but in the NCAA tournament when it's one and done, you can't do that. And then out of the East, gun to my head, I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I'm not buying into Villanova. If Villanova does go to the Final Four, well, they should expect to go to the Final Four because they're a 1 seed, but I think that Oklahoma is going to have a lot to say, and I could easily see them getting all the way to Indianapolis.
Nice. Did you give me one from the South? Duke, Gonzaga?
Duke is a team from the South.
Awesome. Hey, I just want to give you one little nugget before I let you go, and thanks again for your time. This time of the year always gets me a little nostalgic because, back in the day I was a Twins bat boy. And along with that, I got to work locker rooms for NCAA tournaments, for regionals, Final Fours. I mean, all levels of the tournament. So, I mean, I got to see a lot of cool stuff. And I'm gonna get into some stories after the break, just to tease to the listeners some fun stuff behind the scenes. But you mentioned LSU and Shaquille O'Neal. They came to Minneapolis for a regional once, and every team always seemed to have like one special request or something that had to be filled. And all we ever had to do for LSU, and this is no joke. We had to have a bunch of bananas. I mean, no fewer than 6. Nice ripe yellow bananas placed in the locker of Shaquille O'Neal with LSU Shaq written in purple marker on every one of them. How about that?
What?
I know. He was just a freshman too, and it was the nice ripe yellow bananas, purple marker, purple Sharpie, LSU Shaq. Or it might have been LSU Shaq #1. It was something just dumb. It was like some rock star saying, "I only want blue M&Ms." But we had 6 bananas in the top shelf of the locker of Shaquille O'Neal for LSU as they came to the Metrodome for NCAA basketball.
So basically, you're telling me that Shaquille O'Neal was a diva when he was 18.
Yes, he was. He was indeed. And then, the heartbreaking. Do you remember Danny Nee? Do you remember Danny Nee coaching Nebraska?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Just salt of the earth. Nicest guy in the world. I mean, this is back in the early 90s, I suppose, where Nebraska makes the NCAA tournament like for the first time in 100 fucking years. And then people are just like going nuts in Nebraska. And he comes and takes a first round header and they're done. I mean, they're done. They go down round number. The guy was inconsolable. I mean, he was weeping. He's in the corner of the locker room. By the time he left, we had to give him like 2 cases of Miller Lite to take back to his hotel room. The man was inconsolable. I've never seen any. We all wanted to kill ourselves for him. I mean, poor Danny Nee. But I mean, you know what? When you get these cities like Lincoln with this fan base, people go nuts for that team, and I mean, you know how rabid Nebraska fans are in other sports. You know, they really jumped on a basketball bandwagon back in the early '90s because they hadn't had it before. And I mean, he came in here with a lot of pressure and lost in the first round. And I mean, the man was beside himself with grief. I mean,
bro, you haven't seen anything until you go to Lawrence and you see KU basketball. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, man. I've had the pleasure and opportunity to be a part of this now for 2 years, and I will tell you this: every time when I'm sitting in Allen Fieldhouse and they're getting ready to do the lineups, and they have because they have the best marketing department, I think, in sports, with the way that they put together montages and all the bits that they do during the course of their game. Yep. I get chills every time I sit there and watch a damn basketball.
Yeah, Fog Allen.
I'm a grown-ass man getting chills.
Yeah, I mean, Fog Allen should be on every sports fan's bucket list, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, you got to do it.
Good as it gets. Hey, H. Lake, speaking of good as it gets, you are as good as it gets. Thanks for helping out the people with your brackets. And it goes without saying you got Kentucky winning it all, correct?
I don't actually.
Oh, no!
I'm going to be one of the few. I'm going to be one of the few, and Jeff, man, you know you're one of my guys. You can always call me. But you're probably going to be a little bit bitter with me right now because I do believe that there's a potential for an upset, and that Wisconsin could probably knock off Kentucky.
No, it's not a Disney movie.
That is the storyline of redemption too, because who knocked out Wisconsin last year in the Final Four by 1 point?
Oh, you're killing me. You're killing me.
I know. I'm sorry, man.
This is not a Disney movie. They don't have flubber in their shoes. The 5 white guys cannot win the national championship. They can't do it. All right, H. Lake. Thanks for your time, man.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
See ya. That's Henry Lake, close personal friend. He's down in Kansas City making. He's huge down there. I mean, he's in the cradle of college basketball. I mean, he's not on Tobacco Road, but he's in right there in the Midwest. You got Kansas, you got Missouri, you got all these great Big 12 powers, Oklahoma. I mean, he's driving distance down there in Kansas City to all these great programs, and he is absolutely plugged in. Like he just told you, he was down in the Kansas locker room for the whole run of the Big 12 tournament. So how good is that? So great information for you to fill out those brackets. We'll come back, talk a little March Madness, maybe share a story or two from the good old days of Jock Washington. It is Jeff Dubay, Jason McGovern on the Alive and Social Network.
Hi, I'm Terry Daniel, and I've been a voice actor in Minneapolis for over 2 decades now. How often are you getting compliments on your voice? Now is the time to do something about it. If you're interested in getting into voiceovers, please contact me via my website at universalvoicetalent.com.
I do want to do due diligence to the NCHC Frozen Face-Off, not just because they are a client of ours, but it is a fantastic event. And it is going to be at the Target Center. It's March 20th to 21st, and they've got some fantastic deals right now. Full session ticket packages for all 4 games start as low as $60, and they will have single game tickets going on sale February 23rd. You can call 1-888-9-AXSTIX, AXSTIX, or go to TargetCenter.com. Go to the Target Center box office. It's going to be a great event. They've also got this fan fest going on. They're going to have live bands. They're going to shut down part of First Ave there, and have bands on the street. We're going to be podcasting live as part of the event. And if you are coming from out of town, which, obviously, the University of Minnesota is no longer in it, so most of the fans who come here are going to be traveling, whether it's from Grand Forks, St. Cloud, Duluth, Miami, of Ohio, Denver University, whatever, you're going to want a hotel room. And obviously, there's a wealth of hotel rooms in downtown Minneapolis. As great as a venue as the X was for these events, downtown Minneapolis has got so much more going on, so many more hotel rooms. And if you go to my Twitter account, or my Facebook account, you will find a post or a tweet that shows the NCHC Frozen Face-Off coming March 20th, 21st, and where you can go to book discounted hotel rooms, because the NCHC got together with the Chamber of Commerce and the hotels and put together some packages where folks can get a break on hotel rooms. Just tell them you're coming for the NCHC Frozen Face-Off. But you'll see the link on my Twitter account and my Facebook account. Just click on it, and they'll lead you right to discounted hotels, which should be a fantastic event.
I've never had the occasion to hide out in Havana. Thank God. What a great song. The late, great Warren Zevon. Couple of things to get to. It's this time of the year. I mean, Jason, you're not a sports nut, but you're a sports fan.
I'm a pretty big sports fan.
You're a sports enthusiast. I mean, I know it gets cliched and it gets overdone about March Madness and this time of the year, but I love this time of the year. It is the best, but it is almost. I almost approach it now with a little bit of a heavy heart, because there's something missing without the WCHA Final Five, and I know that there is a WCHA Final Five, but it's not. It's not what it was. I mean, obviously, the WCHA it's still a fine conference. It's got. I mean, Mankato, Minnesota State is the number 2 team in the country right now in the pairwise. I mean, so there's power there. There's still reasons to. Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech is. I want to say 5th in the pairwise. I mean, you might have 2 Frozen Four teams for the WCHA. The WCHA isn't a joke, but I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It's not what it was with Minnesota and North Dakota and St. Cloud and Denver and CC and Duluth. I mean, it's not the same. And this time of the year, I mean, as a Gopher hockey fan, I would look forward to this time of the year so much. Just to be down in St. Paul for this weekend, even if the Gophers would take a gas pipe, in the semis or whatever, it's still the weekend itself was just great hockey, and it seemed like on a very regular basis it would come down to a Minnesota-North Dakota game, and I mean there's just nothing like it when the Gophers and the Sioux play at the X with the crowd. It's basically split 50-50. It's just the atmosphere unequaled.
Those games were sold out usually too, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the place would just be rocking. And I'm going to take this opportunity also to mention that the NCHC Frozen Face-Off is coming to the Target Center this weekend. And while it might be a little pie in the sky to think you could match what you'd have at the X, I think that potentially what you have this Friday could really, really come close to it. You've got St. Cloud playing North Dakota. It's going to be fantastic. The Fighting Sioux will bring 10? Now that they're not fighting with Gopher fans for these tickets, obviously, because the Gophers they're not part of this conference. So they might. I mean, they could bring down 10, 12,000. I mean, I don't think it's an exaggeration. I mean, it's within the realm. And St. Cloud pulls a big upset. Well, not a big upset. They pull a mild upset over UNO over the weekend. They go on the road, sweep Nebraska Omaha, and. So St. Cloud should have a hell of a fan base here as well. And St. Cloud is a team that was fighting for their NCAA lives. So congratulations to Bob Motzko and company for getting that done down in Omaha. So you've got St. Cloud and North Dakota. I'd have to double check the schedule, but I believe they're the primetime game. I believe they're the second game Friday. The second game of the session. You got the 2 semifinals. Miami of Ohio and Denver is the other one. So, I mean, you're looking at 4 teams that are locked into the NCAA tournament. You're looking at 4 teams that all are national title contenders, without a doubt. All 4 are. And as a matter of fact, I believe Wednesday we might have Dave Starman on the show again. He is the NCHC analyst on CBS Sports, the CBS Sports Network for the NCHC games, including for the Frozen Face-Off this weekend. But it's Friday should be fantastic. And if you got St. Cloud, North Dakota Friday night, and you're a Gopher hockey fan, and you kind of miss what you used to get down there in St. Paul for the Final Five, the Gophers are playing their semifinal in the Big Ten tournament Friday from Joe Louis Arena in Detroit at 3:30, I believe 3:30 Central. That will be against the winner of Ohio State, Penn State, which should be Penn State. And the Penn State is a team that the Gophers just beat 5-0 and 6-2. All right, so I mean, don't get me wrong, you don't mail it in. I mean, last year the Gophers had Ohio State in the semis and they went belly up. So you never know. You never know. But nonetheless. You got this Gopher game at 3:30. I bet you by 5 o'clock you will have a pretty good idea who's going to win this game. I mean, the Gophers, if it's Minnesota Penn State, the Gophers get up on them early. They should show them no mercy. They should win this game. They should move on. If you want Friday night, you have the chance to capture the atmosphere that you used to get in St. Paul and be in an electric building for a college hockey playoff game. then get down to the Target Center. Down to the Target Center and check out St. Cloud State in North Dakota. Tickets still available. 888-9-AXS-TIX. 888-9-AXS-TIX. Very reasonable price tickets. You can get single game. It's going to be fantastic. North Dakota St. Cloud. It's going to be on fire. We're going to be doing I'm going to be down there doing the show at Kieran's sometime during the day Friday. Maybe during or leading into the Miami-Denver semifinal. Again, I believe that the Miami-Denver game is the afternoon game, and the St. Cloud North Dakota game is the night game. But that
would be the smart way to do it. I hope that's what they do.
Well, you think you do it that way for attendance? It only makes sense. Plus, the top seed should typically get that primetime game, and that's North Dakota. So I mean. So again, Gopher fans, you want to have a fun day, come down to Kieran's during the afternoon and sit there with me. We'll watch Gophers Penn State. We'll see our squad roll the Nittany Lions and move into that Big Ten championship game. Oh, the vaunted Big Ten championship game. And then we'll go across the street and watch watch North Dakota St. Cloud in a frenzied atmosphere with a massive crowd, with electricity in the air, with two great fan bases. When I say two great fan bases, I mean they're a bunch of assholes. But you know what I mean. They're
great to their team.
Yeah, exactly. No, but in all honesty, it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a great atmosphere. It's going to be a lot of fun. Get down there and get tickets.
It's hockey in Minneapolis, man.
And
it's a whole different
And I tell you what, we're going to have tickets to give away. We're going to be giving away some tickets Wednesday. So get out to Bennett's. Get to Bennett's Chop and Rail House Wednesday. For the Wild Wednesday show. I'm going to be giving away some tickets to the NCHC Frozen Face-Off. We got tickets for Friday. We got tickets for Saturday. And I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to spending the afternoon doing the podcast at Kieran's, watching the Gophers Penn State, and then dragging my sorry ass across the street to watch a little North Dakota St. Cloud. It's going to be a hell of a day of hockey. And you get across the street, watch Miami and Denver if you want. Those are top 10 teams and teams that are very viable national championship contenders. So it's going to be a big day, but I still do it a little bit with a heavy heart. I miss what we had going on in St. Paul. And by the way, the WCHA Final Five is in St. Paul too. Not to plug a competitor to the NCHC, but there's all kinds of good hockey going on this weekend. If you like college hockey, if you love college hockey, then your plate's going to be full. Whether you're watching TV, flipping the channels, watching online on a computer, whether you're getting there in person and having a couple of cold ones, kicking them back, and then walking across the street to check it out. Whatever. The viewing options are out there, but it does not get better than college hockey's best conference and college hockey's best postseason tournament, the NCHC Frozen Face-Off, 888-9-AXS-TIX, and the Target Center box office, targetcenter.com. And you can also just go through my Twitter account, my Facebook account. As a matter of fact, I'll repost the link today. You'll see the link up there tonight where you can get some discounted hotel rooms in downtown Minneapolis. Now that you know your team's there, the first round is over. You know who's there now. Now maybe you're making the arrangements. You're booking the rooms. From 4 p.m. on here Monday night, you can go to my Twitter or Facebook account, and you will see that I will have reposted the link that gets you discounted hotel rooms. It's going to be a hell of an event, a hell of a weekend. Did you ever go to the Final Five? You ever go to any of that stuff?
Yeah, I've been to a couple of games in the Final Five. Yeah. I loved it down there.
Yeah,
they always filled it up, and I always enjoyed those games. But I want to ask you though, when you go to that St. Cloud and the unnamed North Dakota team, do you just root that they kill each other, or what are you rooting for there? Hurt goalies?
You know what?
What do you want to see out of that?
Just from a personal point of view, I would probably. I can never cheer for North Dakota to win.
I didn't think you could cheer for that jersey.
2005 was a test because the Gophers were in the Frozen Four. And they were playing against North Dakota in one semifinal, and Denver was playing CC in the other semifinal. It was a big deal because it was all WCHA Frozen Four. All 4 teams from one conference, just to show that how dynamic and powerful this conference was, and it was right up until the end. But Denver was playing for their second consecutive title. Now, when the Gophers went back-to-back in 2002 and 03, it was the first time it had been done in like 30 years. It was a big deal. And now here's Denver. They won it in 2004, and now they're threatening to do it in 2005, and all of a sudden now they're going to be the team with the last back-to-back, and they're going to bump the Gophers off that pedestal. Gophers lose to North Dakota in the semis, which crushed me. Denver wins against CC. They move on. So you get a Denver-North Dakota final where the Gopher fan base was kind of split on this.
That's a tough one.
A lot of Gopher fans wanted North Dakota to win this thing, so the Gophers still had the only back-to-back in the last quarter century plus. Not me.
Talk about holding your nose. Oh.
It was one of the hardest games I've ever had to sit through or cheer through. But I pulled for Denver. I mean, if I was going to go ahead and say, go ahead and take the back-to-back, take the title of back-to-back away from us, yeah, I mean, that just tells you how badly I wanted North Dakota to lose. I mean, for years and years and years, Gopher fans, all they heard from North Dakota fans was, hey, win a national title. You got this long drought. You can't win a national championship. North Dakota has that drought going right now. I mean, 2000 was their last. They're 15 years. North Dakota is 15 years without a national title. I mean, trust me, when the Gophers were 7, 8, 9, 10 years without one, they were all over us. They're now 15 years without one. And as a Gopher fan, I'm not going to tell you I don't enjoy that. I'm not going to tell you that I don't get a kick out of that. But they are, without a doubt, the favorite to win it this year.
Does being in the NCHC help or hurt North Dakota?
That's what I tried to get Motzko to go one way or the other on that the other week when he was on, and Commissioner Josh, why can't I think of his last name? We just called him Commish, but he was on with us last week, and I asked him the same question too. It's just you play the schedule week in, week out. Some people say, boy, that really prepares you for the postseason. Others could say, boy, that must really wear you down. I mean, the Gophers last year, they really were able to kind of breeze through the regular season because you didn't have any conference games. And you played some good non-conference. You played, BC and Notre Dame, and you played, the WCHA schools like Duluth and St. Cloud. But it's not, if it's not a conference game, it lacks the same intensity. So I mean, you're not going through the mental focus and the mental grind that you do when you're playing in the WCHA. So last year, I thought the Gophers were able to kind of coast through the regular season, and they got to the NCAA tournament, and they were fresh. And I mean, they rolled through. I mean, they rolled through the first couple of opponents. I mean, obviously they struggled mightily with North Dakota, just getting by them with 0.6 seconds left, and then they had the mental breakdown for like 3 minutes against Union that cost them the whole game. I mean, they played St. Cloud in the regional final. St. Cloud was the regular season champ of the NCHC. I mean, they were the champion of college hockey's most powerful conference, a conference that has North Dakota. And St. Cloud was the regular season champ of that. And here they come in the NCAA tournament. They win their first round matchup, and I got Minnesota St. Cloud in that regional final. And with all due respect to my good friend Bob Motzko, and I think he'd admit this, the Gophers breezed past St. Cloud. I mean, it was 4-0, maybe 4-1. But I mean, they never worked up a sweat. I mean, it was so matter of fact. It was just that's the game where upon conclusion, I was convinced that the Gophers were a team that was not going to be beaten. At that point, I'm just like, who's going to beat this team? You just saw the conference champion of the without a doubt best conference in college hockey be absolutely handled. I mean, and if you would have watched that game, or maybe you did watch that game, I don't know what your memory would be of it. But I mean, it was from the moment they dropped the puck, it was varsity versus junior varsity. It was men versus boys. It was like going down to the park and you see like some 15-year-old kid on the ice skating around a bunch of 10-year-old kids. I mean, it was one team owning the other without any threat of loss.
Do you think that might have been, though, because of the wear and tear of playing in that best conference? Because I think that, for North Dakota, you didn't change. You went from the WCHA to the NCHC, so you have always been a great conference. To me, it would be tough for a team that would be going from a lower conference to move up to the NCHC. Yeah. And I also think it could be tougher on the Gophers because they're so used to having that competition all year to kind of slide back a little bit into that Big Ten and breeze through, as you said. I think sometimes that might be a lucky thing that you end up and kick St. Cloud's ass. I think that not being prepared and tested all season could end up over a couple of years even too, as they get away from the WCHA. It might be a negative for the Gophers.
I definitely think it works both ways. As a matter of fact, people all year long have wondered what's wrong with the Gophers. How come they're hot, they're cold, they're off, they're on? And to me, a lot of that was due to the fact that this might sound arrogant. It's not meant to sound arrogant, but I think they were a little bored, and I think they were flat out arrogant. I think they were flat out cocky. But they were 8-1, and they were 8-1 to start the season, and they played pretty mediocre hockey to get to 8-1. And I think they thought, boy, this is going to be easy. At what point are we going to have to really buckle down? We don't really hit conference play till after Christmas, for God's sake. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the conference schedule for them doesn't really hit a grind until after the holidays. I mean, they got a series or two sprinkled in pre-Christmas, but not much. So, I mean, they got to a point in the season where I think, like a couple months in, and then starting to approach that holiday break, where they absolutely flipped it into cruise control, and that's not to make an excuse, because to me that's inexcusable. I mean, you can't play like that, especially not in that sport. And there comes a point when the thing gets far enough away from you. I mean, once it's rolled so far down the hill with all the momentum it has going in the wrong direction, it's not always possible to stop it and make it go the other direction. And I'm still not sold that they have. I mean, when the Gophers beat Michigan State with the backup goaltender. You remember that night? It was a Thursday night, a weird little Thursday-Friday series. And Wilcox couldn't play the Thursday night, so they put in Lair. And, Michigan State scored 3 god-awful goals against the kid. You could tell he was absolutely crapping his pants. I mean, he was scared to death. Even the saves he made, he was just basically getting in the way by accident. He was just fighting the puck all night. I felt for him, but, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you could tell the nerves were just absolutely devouring him. And they were down 3-0 to Michigan State. And Michigan State's not a great team. Michigan State finished second in the Big Ten, but that's not a big resume builder. But when you're behind Michigan State's the kind of team that can grind you. They can be really boring. They can be NHL style. They can really, if they get ahead of you, they can really be a pain in the ass. They'll just try to milk everything. They'll dump it in and they try to clog up the neutral zone and make you go 200 feet, all the cliches, make you go all 200 feet, and do 5 guys between the puck and the net every time you get the puck and blah blah blah. But I mean, that's how they are. So when the Gophers are down in that game 3-0 and came roaring back to win it, I thought, you know what, this team might be all the way back. Then the very next night, Wilcox comes back and they fucking lose on home ice. And then a week later, they lose to Ohio State. And Ohio State, I'm not sure, but if you look really close when you watch Ohio State play, they got a couple of guys who might have double runners. The double.
Like training skates.
During pregame warm-ups, I could have sworn I saw a guy come out like pushing a kitchen chair. You learn how to skate pushing a kitchen chair. One of their defensemen might have been pushing a kitchen chair. Well, I mean, Ohio State is awful. Ohio State and Wisconsin. Ohio State and Wisconsin have set the Big Ten back. I mean, I know the Big Ten's only existed for 2 years in college hockey. Ohio State and Wisconsin have combined to set it back 20 years. These two teams are, and this is not me picking on Bucky. Wisconsin is so bad. I mean, they have nobody. I mean, I think Lakeville North could give Wisconsin a run. Wisconsin is so bad. And Ohio
what
State
happened to Wisconsin? I mean, they're a perennial, at least, I mean, powerhouse. Yeah, they're a perennial powerhouse.
It's a hard thing to explain. Other than the fact that it might be harder to recruit to Wisconsin now than it used to be, because the Big Ten is not, who gives a shit, you know? I mean, Wisconsin was in the WCHA. Wisconsin's not a hockey hotbed, the state itself. I mean, there's players. I mean, Kessel came from Wisconsin. Skilly played in the NHL from Wisconsin. I mean, there's some guys that come from the state. I mean, it's not void of Suter. I mean, Wisconsin does produce some talent. It's not Minnesota and it's not Michigan, but I mean, it is kind of wedged right in between the two of them, and it is adjacent to both, and it does have some talent that comes up in its. But you've got, number one, he's got to get every ounce of talent he can out of that state, and then he's got to still recruit Minnesota and Michigan and out east and Canada. I mean, he's got it. It's just not as easy when Wisconsin was in the WCHA. That's any program in the WCHA has got some glitz and glamour to it. I mean, because you're going to be playing North Dakota, and you're going to play Minnesota, and you're going to play Wisconsin, you're going to play Denver, you're going to play Duluth, you're going to play St. Cloud. I mean, there was some glitz and glamour to it. Wisconsin is a school that's going to take a little bit of a beating going into the Big Ten.
Shouldn't the Big Ten network help you a little there, though?
Yes, it should. It should.
I mean, but that's basically your only selling point to the kids, isn't it? I mean,
it should offset that, and the fact that you should be able to put together a really attractive non-conference schedule. I mean,
because you can play whoever you want. You're Wisconsin.
You're still Wisconsin. There's still cachet there. I mean, you should still be able to be, you're Wisconsin. You should be able to call up Boston College, Boston University, Notre Dame, whatever. Say, hey, let's put something on the schedule. You should be able to call up North Dakota. Hey, let's put something on the schedule. So I mean, they should be better than they are. And you know what? Programs do dip. I mean, a few years ago, the Gophers were a mess. Yeah. I mean, we know why. Lucia was crippled. I mean, he's bedridden with a horrible, neurological problem. He couldn't even stand up. I mean, he was so completely crippled by this horrific pain in his head. I mean, it was a very serious problem. It was no joke. It was like a brain swelling. I mean, it was. Oof. I mean, and that absolutely crippled the program. But programs take dips, and exactly what happened or what is happening in Wisconsin, not 100% sure. But we are running a little bit behind because we had H. Lake on for so long. When we come back, just going to tell a little Duke Blue Devils story, a little locker room pep talk given by Mike Krzyzewski that is of interest to anybody who's ever been a fan of the Minnesota Twins.
Hi, everybody. This is Alyssa.
And this is Liz.
And we're with The Focus Radio,
where our focus is to bring you resources to grow your business and double your income.
Join us on Mondays from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Time. TheFocusRadio.com.
What are you drinking tonight, Jason?
The Minnesota Pubcast with Jason and Molly.
I'm drinking a Liftbridge Hop Dish.
It's Pub Talk from a Minnesotan perspective.
I'm always really proud of where I'm from. I'm super proud of Minnesota, and I think Minneapolis is awesome. I think St. Paul is awesome. I think they're a really awesome cultural epicenter.
With great local guests.
So the other voice you hear in the room today is Jerry Fagerberg from the City Pages. Talk about the official Minnesota Tall Boy, which your piece is on the cover of the City Pages today.
It is on the cover, came out today.
Talking movies.
All right, you saw Boyhood. I need to hear what you thought.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Sports.
A guy who was undrafted knew what was coming.
And everything else you talk about at the pub.
Let's not pretend like we know what we're talking about.
Well, what do you think I do every show?
The Minnesota Pubcast with Jason McGovern and Molly Burke. Listen at mnpubcast.com or subscribe on iTunes.
We want to just find meaning in life.
Wrapping things up, Jeff Dubay Show, Monday, March Madness. And a March Madness-related story that I've been teasing to throughout the program, whether or not you're a fan of the Duke Blue Devils, has made me hate Duke a little less. I mean, I never liked Duke. I was always more of a North Carolina guy. And, you know, Duke's easy to not like because they got snotty, little prep school-looking white boys like Hurley and Leitner. You know, they were never easy guys to like. You know what I mean?
Oh, I hated them.
And if you ever watch the ESPN 60 special or 30 for 30 special, whatever it is, for the Fab Five, I mean, Jalen Rose, he pulls no punches. He talks about how much they hated Duke and how racist Duke was. And that Duke was just, the man. They were the establishment. And we were the anti-establishment. We were, the revolutionary. And we were just hated them, racist, stuck-up, white boy snobs. But this goes back to, so this would be, 90, 91, when the Fab Five, when they were freshmen.
Sounds about right.
The Final Four was at Metrodome, so it's easy to look up if we wanted to get the record straight, whatever year it was, that the Final Four was at the Metrodome. The Fab Five were freshmen. This is the year before Chris Webber called the timeout in the championship game. Remember, the Fab Five went to 2 championship games, and then they started to leave school and go pro. But this was Duke versus Michigan. And Duke was the highest of the remaining seeds when they got to Metrodome for the Final Four, and the highest remaining seed got the nicest locker room, which was the Twins clubhouse. So we had Duke. We were hosting the Duke Blue Devils. Me and Bobby Dory, sweet Bobby D, the late great, may he rest in peace, greatest clubby in the history of clubbies. It was he and I were hosting the Duke Blue Devils, and it was Krzyzewski. He's a taskmaster. He's an attention to detail guy. He's a drill your guys and drill them until they've got it right. And just attention to detail. And Michigan was a group of what's the best way to put it? I mean, they weren't the most disciplined bunch, but they were so talented, physically gifted, and just athletic, just fantastic. And I'm not saying that they weren't that they were poorly coached by any stretch. Steve Fisher's a coach who's got a fine resume, and this is a team that it was 5 freshmen, and they went to the Final Four. They went to the championship game. But nonetheless, it's the kind of group that Krzyzewski thinks he can look at and dissect them and beat them with the well-drilled, team that is well practiced, that is disciplined, that has got there's some fundamentals that just driven into their minds. This is the kind of team that Krzyzewski thinks he can take apart, and he did. But the first half was competitive. The first half was very close, and if it wasn't tied, Michigan might have even had a small lead. But I mean, this game was absolutely up for grabs at halftime, and Krzyzewski was furious about it. I mean, he sees a fairly undisciplined group of freshmen taking his senior-laden squad to the wire, and he gets up into the locker room at halftime. All right, this is in the Twins clubhouse, halftime of the national championship game, a game that is up for grabs, that he feels his team should absolutely be outclassing the Michigan Wolverines, and the guys come in and they all sit down, and it's just quiet. They're hanging their heads a little bit. They're in a tougher game than they thought they were going to be in. And Krzyzewski waits. He's in the coach's office. He's waiting to make his entrance. Everybody's kind of sitting there. The tension's kind of thick. The air's kind of thick. And he finally comes in, and he doesn't say a word. He's looking at the ground, and he's just kind of looking disgusted. He's got his hands in his pockets, and then he takes his hand out. He points. He goes, "Look around." He starts pointing the lockers. Herbeck, Puckett, Blyleven, Viola. He goes, "This is a locker room of champions." I'm serious. I mean, he's like yelling this down. He says, "Look at the names." He goes, there's a locker room of champions. Herbeck, Puckett. They don't let losers in here. I mean, he's like, let them have it.
That's kind of awesome,
and I'm standing
actually.
in the back of the room. We're going, Jesus, this is awesome. He's invoking the Twins.
That is awesome.
And I mean, he rallied the squad at halftime of a national championship game by invoking names of the Minnesota Twins off the lockers. Yeah, because the Twins had just won the '91 World Series there. So
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's the only time that's ever happened.
Isn't that cool?
It's way cool, but I think it's the only time the Twins have ever been held as that, like, that's the gold standard.
Yeah.
You got to be the Twins.
The Twins, for a brief moment, were the Gipper.
Oh,
win
awesome.
Win for the puck. I mean, and we're in the back, and I'm going, Jesus Christ, this is the coolest thing ever. And by the way, in the second half, Duke went out and won by like 20. I mean, they went out and
so it worked.
Yes, I mean they went out and dismantled them. I mean, that's one of my favorites. You've never heard that?
The Twins should get some credit.
They should have sent us a ring.
Cut or a part of the a ring or something.
Yeah, they should have sent us a ring. I tell you, or at least a little watch or a memento or something.
That's a fucking awesome story.
I'm surprised you haven't heard that.
I can't believe I hadn't heard that.
I feel like I've worn that one out. I feel like I'm starting to really wear out all my stories because there is a finite amount of them. But I shouldn't say that because I do keep remembering shit.
No, that was a solid one.
But yeah, I'd like
and you've talked about the brain itself, and maybe these things will start coming back too.
Oh, I'm telling you, I buried a few of them.
That's what I'm saying.
An avalanche of stupidity.
Threw in a couple extra cobwebs.
yes, no extra charge. But that's going to do it for a Monday. Tomorrow, the debut of Twins Tuesdays. We're midway through spring training, roughly. So we're going to start it up. We're going to start talking baseball. You better be ready because we'll be talking about it for the next 6 months on Tuesdays. Twins Tuesday starts tomorrow, and then a Wild Wednesday at Bennett's Chop and Rail House coming up on Wednesday.